There will be a recession someday. Someday. True. It's not even a true-false question. There's going to be a recession someday. Some people think that it will be sooner rather than later, right? I mean, when you look at the headlines, oh my God, the daily U.S. to plunge into shock recession. How can it be a shock if they're already reporting it? But okay, there's a shock recession in early 2020. CNBC, Bank of America now, it's a 1 in 3 chance that there's going to be a recession in the next 12 months. Economists forecasting possible 2020 recession. All the people out there, recession, we're going to have a recession. Meanwhile, these are the same economists, the same pundits that, you know, when Trump won the election, Politico put together a whole group of think tank of economists, and they said, oh, our think tank thinks that the stock markets will tank after Trump wins the election. Meanwhile, the markets are up 50% since he won the election. Even Paul Krugman, the economist from the New York Times, the day after the election, we are probably looking at a global recession with no end in sight. So even our smart, what does this all come down to, right? The pundits, the investment analysts, the bankers, the financial managers, all the people that, you know, they say they're experts. They're not experts, right? They don't really know. No one knows when the next recession is going to be, no matter what it's telling us. Everybody's taking a guess. They're just, you know, they're trying to make their mark. However, that's not good enough. We need to know when there's going to be a recession. We're running businesses. We're advising our clients. But you know, if we knew that there's a recession coming or there's storm clouds on the horizon, then we and our clients can be taking some steps to make sure that we are protected. We need to know. So what I did is I got completely fooled by the last recession. I didn't know that it was coming. And since then, because it's been 10 years, I've talked to a lot of economists. I have a lot of friends to try and get some advice on how to know. And over the past 10 years or so, I've got a handful of really good unknown metrics that I would like to share with you. Now, first of all, if you're following like GDP or the unemployment rate, you're wasting your time, okay? These things, they get revised 37 times after they've been issued. They're all politicized. It's not right. But I've got a few really good, lesser-known metrics that we can. Is it okay if I share them with you? Is that all right? Okay, good. That's a relief because I have a bunch of slides talking about them after this, and that would be really awkward if you said no to that question. So, all right, here's the first metric that I was told. Number one, the Baltic Dry Index. It's an index that measures the freight, the cost of freight through the Baltic Sea, right? And by the way, I'm going to tell you where to go to. I'm going to tell you where to get these indexes in just a minute. And by the way, full disclosure, if you gave me a map, I could not even pick out the Baltic Sea on. For I know people are swimming through the Baltic Sea right now, but it happens to be the world's most traversed shipping corridor. So when freight costs of shipping through the Baltic Sea are going up, that's a good thing because there's more demand. And when they're going down, not a good thing at all. And apparently, if you go all the way back to the last recession, the freight, they were dropping months. Like 3 to 6 months before that big downturn, it was like a big drop-off in the Baltic Dry Index. And then when you go back to all other recessions, you see the same drop-off in advance. This is what the Baltic Dry Index is right now. Just ignore the index on the right. This is what it's been through 2016. And just a few things just to point out, okay? If you notice, since the middle of this year, I mean, it was really up. And then it's been dropping over the past few months of this year. Am I concerned? A little bit. However, it's still up about 4% since the beginning of 2019. And even at this level, still historically not at a bad level at all. If I continue to see it going down to levels where we saw maybe that before 2006, then I might get concerned. But right now, still keeping an eye on it. Not that concerned right now. Seems to be at certain levels. I mean, these are commodity prices. For freight is like a commodity, so it goes up and down depending on how things are going. The other thing to also point out is that the Baltic Dry Index does tend to go down in the second half of the year before it recovers based on shipping trends. So again, watching it, nothing that I'm really panicking about, but that's certainly one metric that I like to follow. The second metric I like to follow is the ISM Service and Manufacturing Business Conditions Index. The ISM is the Institute of Supply Managers. The Institute of Supply Managers is an association of purchasing managers. To be a member of the Institute of Supply Managers, you have to be a certified purchasing manager, and you have to look like this. That's a requirement. When you're at the ISM gets generally ignored by most of the media, except for the Wall Street Journal, who regularly posts what this index comes out. And they have two indexes. one for service, and one for manufacturing. And what the ISM does is that they talk to their members, purchasing managers around the country, and they ask them kind of reasonable questions like, what are you buying over the next 30, 60, and 90 days, and how much? Okay, and then a bunch of other questions as well. But they put that into an index to see what America's purchasing managers' activities are, and they break it out between service and manufacturing. This is manufacturing. The bold line that's at 50 right now is sort of the break-even line. Anything above that means that we're seeing growth in purchases of manufacturers. Anything below that is we're seeing negative growth, a decline. For the past couple of months, 2 months in a row, we have been in a decline. And oh my God, suddenly the media that never pays attention to this index, now it's headline news because we are spiraling into a depression never seen before because we've had 2 months in a row of slight declines in manufacturing purchases. Even if when you take the metric, and I'm going to show you where to go to get this stuff, you can't take this news just in a vacuum. When it gets reported that manufacturing declined this month, you've got to be like, okay, things go up, they go down. How does that stand among all other months in history? Well, when you look at this manufacturing index, we've been there, but we were down. It had declined back in 2016. It had declined back in 2015. It had declined back in 2012. It is nowhere near what it was the last recession or any of the recessions in blue before that. So yes, is that a concern? Well, if it continues to decline, then possibly it is. But based on some of the history that I'm seeing, it's just as likely to rebound as well. No need to, I'm not panicking, in other words, I'm not pushing it back. I'm just watching it, and I'm taking it into context with history. That's manufacturing. On the service side, you care about the blue line here. That is still in growth mode. So all services businesses, purchasing managers are reporting continued growth, up to 5% in their purchasing, and it's been even more throughout the past few years. By the way, this is through the end of October. So again, manufacturing declining a little bit, service industries still going pretty good. So I like the ISM business, and I look at that every month. I look at the National Association of Home Builders Housing Market Index. Again, I'll tell you where to go in a minute to get this stuff. The NAHB takes in existing and new construction and puts it into a whole index of the construction and housing market. This is the index through the end of October. It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. It's a bit, it's a whatever. But as you can see, when you look at it, still generally been trending up over the past few years. And even in 2019, continues to trend up. The housing market still seems to be okay. And people in the construction industry, which is a big industry, still seem to be doing fine. I like to look at retail sales and the National Federation of Independent Businesses Small Business Confidence Index, because it's all about consumers, and there's 30 million small businesses. Being confident among them, it would probably be a good thing. Retail sales continues to do great. We saw this is through October of 2019. They seem to be continuing to rise as we look at these numbers, nowhere near down to level. And yes, they drop a little bit, they go up a little bit. You got to look at it over the course of time to really get a flavor whether there's a problem or a trend developing. Not seeing a trend developing there, nor am I seeing a negative trend developing among small business optimism. The NFIB polls all of its members, puts together this index. They've been doing it since when I graduated college, for God's sake, that long. And this is an index that goes up and down and up and down. Look how low it was during the last recession. Look how high it was right after Trump was elected. How high can it go? We're small business and we're like the most pessimistic people on earth, it can't be any more confident than that. And it's remained at historically high levels, and it just went up. They just reported it yesterday. That's the most recent data through the end of October. Small business confidence rose a little bit after dropping the previous month. Again, looking pretty good on the small business confidence side. And finally, the Chemical Activity Barometer I look at once a month. That is a metric prepared by the American Chemistry Council, because everything we consume, sit on, drive in, play with, whatever, has some type of chemicals in it, unfortunately. And they do the same thing that the ISM does. They poll their members, which are all big chemical companies, and they're like, what are your sales? What's your backlog? What are your orders? What are your profitability? They put that all into a barometer of the industry. And as you can see, it dips during recession times. But for the most part, it has been trending up and up and continues to trend up even through the end of October. So, overall, when I look at where the economy is going, whatever, yeah, could things be be better, whatever. I think you're still going fine. Okay, so overall, that's what I'm seeing right now. Check in with me in 6 months. The most important thing, though, as a business owner or an advisor to clients is you have got to have a few metrics. I've learned this myself. 3, 4 metrics that you look at like once a month. It doesn't matter what they are as long as you think they're important to you. Some people look at recreational vehicle sales, right? Because that's like a luxury item. So when sales are up, it's good for the economy. People are spending extra money when it's down. RV sales have been down this year. But a lot of people attribute that to the tariff situation with China, but just keep that in mind. I have a friend of mine, an economist, who lives in Los Angeles. He tracks pet thefts in Los Angeles. This is literally what this guy does. He actually goes and looks up records every week as to how many pets were stolen. His theory is that when people are stealing more dogs, that's a sign of a bad economy, and therefore, that's something to be aware. Joe, can you imagine somebody stealing a dog? It would be terrible. What kind of a sick individual is even tracking this stuff, let alone doing it?